Hey Sunrise, it's Andrew here with your small group questions for this week as we get into week 3 in our series on gospel culture. So the text before us this week is 1 John chapter 1 verses 5 through 7. That's going to outline roughly where we'll be talking about as we dive into the truth of what it means to have fellowship with one another through walking in the light with God. And so the very first thing we come to in this text is, what does it mean that God is light? What does that phrase mean? How does it shape our understanding of God and ourselves? And then from that point, we then are encouraged by the fact that we are then called to walk in the light as He is in the light, and not to walk in darkness. What then does it mean to walk in the light? What does that look like? What are some examples that you can think of? How does this apply in your own life? And interestingly, as you're reading this passage, it talks about to be in the light with God, and yet when it talks about the fact that we walk in the light, it is that we can then have fellowship, textually not with God, but with one another. How does walking in the light build a fellowship together? So how are we then joined together as Christ's body by walking in the light? So what does this text point us to? How does it again continue to fuel this love for one another? And also then we have this fact of, what does the fellowship of the saints have to do with living out the faith? And why then is this text highlighting the essential nature of fellowship together? What is gained by living the Christian life together, walking it out together, that is missing when done alone? What are we seeing the text build for us here? And so what then, as we work through this in our text, our series, how then is the gospel in play here, building a faithful community of saints? What ways is the gospel being worked out in this text to grow the saints into a faithful community? Now you may want to go a little bit before this in 1 John and then a little after to help fill out the question, but does help build our understanding of what God is doing in the saints as they walk in the light. And then our final question, again, thinking through gospel culture, what does this text highlight about the gospel being active and not passive? So how is gospel culture an active culture, not a passive one? So just take some time thinking about those questions, reading our text again. 1 John 1, 5 through 7 is the bulk of our sermon, but feel free to start in verse 1 and go to the end of the chapter. There's a lot of important context and details that help us see the full picture. Then again, we hope to see you on Sunday as we hear the word proclaimed, and then in our small groups as we talk about these things and encourage one another to grow in the truth. Can't wait to worship with you guys on Sunday. See you soon.